starting to look like the Guardians were never going to come home from Chicago or the game road trip. It was a roller coaster of a road trip that went 4-2. So it was a good road trip that just didn't want to end. And I'm sure nobody was triggered by rain delays and Chicago Cubs and Cleveland baseball team.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing right now. Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 off for just trying by downloading Ibotta, the free Ibotta app, and using the code MLB. I'll be doing that one myself. There's one free money. Over there is Justin. I am Jeff. We've got 3 games to talk about. We have a team tied for a division lead, and we have a absolute behemoth on deck. So, and I'll just say it right now. And Brian Shaw's back in the big leagues, so we can just knock the Cubs, the White Sox, out of the American League Central race with that one.
Should he pitch the 8th inning for the Guardians? 2-1-6-5-7-8. No, I'm kidding. we're gonna get into that.
Do we want to start with the bullpen or with the game 3?
We might as well, since it was a crap show at the end there. Nothing. Things were cruising along, and Saturday night was good. Tanner Bibee pitched his you-know-what off, and the offense did plenty. I mean, they got some gifts from the Cubs defense, by the way. This whole weekend was pretty awful. They were bad again, but then the Guardians decided not to play defense.
The Guardians in the 9th.
Yeah, I don't think that's how Josh Naylor wanted to celebrate, wanted to get revenge from not being named an All-Star, which will also.
I mean, the broadcast. We'll talk some All-Star stuff as well, but yeah, the broadcast is like, that's if you want to be an All-Star, you got to show them you're an All-Star. It's like, ouch.
That was just, man. I mean, everybody got mad about Clase, and look, he walked a batter. His command wasn't like great, and
3 pass balls tonight for
we're hanging on to Cam Gallagher for defense, and he does that.
I mean, the second one in that inning was tough, but that first pass ball was like, I don't know if he just wasn't paying attention or what, but then that puts more pressure because you got a runner at third, and then Josh Naylor boots 2 in a row, which is a very Josh Naylor thing to do. Like, I feel like he is that guy who, after he boots one, gets in his head and boots the other one. Yes, he came back with the big hit, so we'll move on from that. But as much as you want to listen, Class A wasn't sharp.
Can we also talk about the official score in this game too? Okay, so the single by Nico Horner and Christopher Morel, those balls went a combined 14 feet.
Yeah, those were errors. Those were not singles.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah, those and they talked about the great range by Naylor. I'm like, that's not really great range. Like, it's the opposite of great range.
And this is why I'm not going to get flustered by Emmanuel Clase. Like, everyone was like, he's overworked. He should have been in there. All right, he hasn't worked since Thursday. And Thursday, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't great, which we probably should talk about too, because Trevor Stephan also, left a big load on the field that day too. But, when your closer gives up a combined 2 hits on 14 feet of batted balls and they're barely hit, and your first baseman can't make a play, what are you going to do? And you said the pass balls from Cam Gallagher, like, yeah, the walk was bad, and his control was kind of all over the place. He hasn't pitched in a couple days. He needed the work. I mean, I would have been fine not going to him, but here's the thing, and this is what Tito always says, when you don't bring him into a game for 2 days in a row and you bring another reliever in, and then you got to get him warmed up anyway, and if things get dicey, and then you wind up burning 2 relievers. So, I don't know. It's 6 of one, half dozen the other there. They got out of it, but, man, just a lot of heartburn, and Clase is obviously not going to get a break because he is. I was hoping for 2 days. Could have been the whole series without Clase, but he's an all-star, so he's not getting a break.
No, and again, it's like, if you're going to jump into it about like him in this one, I think you didn't watch the game, because
I agree.
Both of Naylor's plays, like, listen, he was ranging to his right. A lot of first basemen can range to their right, and then you got to make that throw. That was an error, in my opinion. He got to the ball and then couldn't get out of his glove. And then the next one, he popped up out of his glove. And it was just like, But then he came back and got the hit. So to me, the bigger one is Cam Gallagher because he can't hit his weight, and he, 3 pass balls. I was with my kid for part of it, so I didn't see the first pass ball, so I can't comment as much on that one. But yeah.
Also, the first single that Clase gave up to Trey Mancini was 77 miles off the bat. So it's not like these guys were hitting him hard. No. And that's the problem with Clase. It's just like,
or maybe it was just 2 pass balls, and the broadcast they said 3. So I guess I misheard.
Okay, either way. But it just seems like he runs into this stuff where he gets some weird batted balls because off the end of the bat because of his cutting motion. And then the defense just kind of either is caught in between or they screw him. So it's like, I don't know. We just got to stop doing that.
Yeah. And it was a weird game. Like, I still don't love David Fry in the outfield. I'm going to just be honest about that. If that's where we're going with this, then maybe we need to call up for trade for an outfielder. Like, he is not a natural outfielder out there.
Well, you see why Gabiarius didn't play again. And this goes back to what we talked about last week about there are things going on that, are also getting in the way of playing time with him. And
it's clear he's in the doghouse. With him not playing much and only playing in the platoons, I think everyone can read between the lines. There's a doghouse situation.
And I understand him running for Josh Naylor late in the game, obviously, and going to first base, especially going to first base after that disaster.
Yes.
But then he went off and tried to steal. Gabiarius is not a good base runner. I don't know what that's not going to help him get out of the
That's his third time getting caught stealing this year. I don't know how many stolen bases he has, but I bet he's almost 50% at stolen bases, if not worse.
If you want to bring somebody else in at first, if you want a third guy behind Naylor and Bell, you got Fry if he's staying up here. I think Oscar Gonzalez, you might as well bring him up. Like, I know he had another good weekend again in Columbus. Like, I don't know. What is Gabiarius helping you do at this point? This is not what we were.
If you're not going to play him against righties, he's not doing anything for you. No. And they're not playing him against righties, and he's in the doghouse, and they're just not playing him in general. So it's time for him to move on.
This whole weekend in Chicago was just wild, by the way. You get Cal Quantrill, who just didn't have it at all on Friday afternoon. He looked terrible, and he's got to face the Braves Wednesday. So, we should be shaking in our boots for that, right?
Yes. And we'll see. Like, he was banged up before he went on. He came back. It was a stinker. I'm not going to throw a guy out. Baseball is a game of patience. We'll see what happens. Maybe he turns around. That was Curry's worst performance of the year in that one. He has been so steady all year. I'm not going to bury the kid because he's been fantastic, but that was, I think, his worst performance. Heron, it hasn't been clean for him in the big leagues. And then David Fry, when the hitters start pitching, maybe that is his future, his reliever. I mean, it was a perfect inning.
He does it all.
It was,
you had the blowout Friday. The Guardians pitched well Saturday, but you had a 2-hour rain delay Saturday or whatever it was. And then you had a long rain delay Sunday. Like this entire series was just kind of upside down. And the Guardians played really well Saturday night. And I'll give credit to the Fox broadcast too. They were right on point. I feel like they must have listened to us. No, I'm kidding. They did their research. They had a good scouting report on Bibee, all the key points on him there, and good to hear him get his due on the national broadcast. And he pitched really well. He had a long fourth inning where I was like, oh man, I think it was like a 20 pitch inning plus 20 pitches. And I was like, oh man, he just cost himself the fifth inning, or he's not going to get to the sixth inning. And he did, because he came back in the fifth inning and had a 10 pitch inning. So he recovered it very well, and good for him.
How about like Sandlin in that one, again, being that rubber armed guy for this team? He's one of the few guys that they seem to trust to go more than one inning. And he's still got some haters out there, but I mean, he's done really well this year. And I just want to continually praise him, because it's weird to me how many people seem to want to send him down all the time when I'm on Twitter.
Also weird, they trust him to go multiple innings considering his arm injury history. Like, that just seems like an odd choice to be like, we trust him to go multiple innings.
Because he's had a Civale health history.
Yeah, and then Civale was good on Sunday. He was fantastic. He didn't strike a lot of guys out, but he was mixing his pitches up very well. And they were saying on the broadcast how they were expecting more curveballs, and he did throw 27. But he was saying teams are expecting that. He went cutter heavy, and his four seam was fantastic. He got 11 swings on the four seam, and 5 of them were whiffs. So that's unusual for him. He was up 95.
Yeah, he allowed 6 base runners in that whole game, which is 6 and 6 innings is great. 2 of them hit batters, which was a little bit funny. But Yeah, he took care of business. If you have any complaints about Civale on Sunday, you're just an unhappy person.
He
But
should have got the win, but he won't.
Yes.
Or he didn't.
We'll come back from a quick break. We still got, basically we're talking about this weekend in general terms. So we still got some more of this weekend to discuss when we come back from a quick break on today's Locked On Guardians.
Picking up burgers and dogs for summer for a barbecue. July 4th is this week. You're already going to do it, so you should get some cash back with it with Ibotta. Ibotta gives you cash back on 100 grocery items. From produce, personal care, to pantry goods, you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what when you're purchasing. Either link your loyalty account to or upload your receipt after you shop. Get your cash back. It is that easy. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 off just for trying the app by using the code MLB when you register. Guardians back home on Monday, July 3rd, 7:10 first pitch. If you're not able to watch on TV or get there in action, make sure you are checking out SiriusXM. Just search Guardians on your XM app. How about Andre Gimenez in the leadoff role on? And again, I don't want to get read too much into that because
tied for fifth and WAR amongst American League second basemen.
Yeah, Quan got Friday off because he had just played a lot and
he didn't have any off days early on, and now he's had like 3, and it almost makes me wonder too if they're trying to work with him on some things.
Well, I think they said in the broadcast. I thought they said somewhere that maybe he was a little banged up from that catch he made on the end of the side of the wall in Wrigley Field. I can't remember, but either way, he had 2 out of 3 days off. I think that's unusual for him, so I'd imagine it had something to do with that. But hey, Andre Gimenez, he got hit by a pitch.
Seemed to like that role, but the first 3 times up, he reached base his first 3 times. His only out wasn't until the 4th time up, right?
Yeah, and I kind of like. Andres is kind of an aggressive hitter. Him and Quan are 2 different hitters, right? Quan goes up there and sees a lot of pitches, but oftentimes I feel like Stephen Quan he's taking a pitch, he's fouling a pitch off, and then the next pitch he's banging it to second base on the ground and he's out, or he's getting a 2-2 count and doing the same thing. It's a lot of pulled ground balls that are not doing a whole lot. And I wouldn't mind not that Andre Gimenez has been fantastic, lately. I know he had a good game today. On Sunday,
2 bases this weekend.
Yes, there you go. That's a great point. He is aggressive on the base pass. He's an aggressive player. I would not mind seeing Andre Gimenez hit leadoff for like a week, maybe 2. See how it goes. Let Quan go down, work on things, because there's patience and there's passive. We talked about it a lot on here with him, with Miles Straw, with Bo Naylor, with Will Benson in the past, with other guys like this. There's 2 different things. Sometimes I feel like Quan's a little
Nolan
passive.
Jones.
Yeah, even Nolan Jones, who is still playing good in Colorado, but they're having weird playing patterns with him too. I don't know what it is, but I wouldn't mind seeing the change because maybe on even I know you want your leadoff hitter maybe to go up there and see some pitches, but sometimes the pitches you see early in the game, sometimes these pitchers take a few minutes to settle in, and you can go up there and you can ambush a guy for a double or a homer. And then you could steal a base because early on they're still settling in and he's aggressive and he's a good base runner. And it wouldn't be a bad thing to maybe spark Andre Gimenez too. And he gets hit by pitches a lot too. And that's a way to get on base if you're not walking a ton. So I don't know, it'd be worth seeing what happens there. If he gets on base more at the top of the order because of the change and you let Quan work through some things at the bottom of the order, I don't know, it could work out. I wouldn't mind seeing Quan hitting 8th or 9th and moving guys up in the order and seeing if this sparks you, because God knows we haven't seen any sign of single change. Like even changing the brand of bubblegum each year would be heresy, right?
Yeah, I mean and I sometimes wonder too, like, does that make things easier on the opposing team or the opposing pitcher? Like that this team is so unchanged, like you just kind of go in and then you don't have anything you got to worry about because it's always the same and everything is the same. Like just randomly changing things up. If any of you listen, there used to be an everydayer. Joey Donuts was his Twitter name. I don't know if he still is. He was a White Sox fan. But if you're out there, let me know, like, how often do the White Sox change things up? I'd be kind of curious to hear, like, is this a Cleveland thing, or how often do teams outside of like the Rays? Because we know the Rays, I mean, they just flip the script all the time. Like, look at Luke Rayleigh's numbers, and again, one could argue that he's more deserving of an All-Star game appearance than Josh Naylor, but we'll discuss that later in the show. But yeah, it's interesting how much. I would love to hear how much other teams adjust and change in Cleveland. Ahmed's going to hit second until his legs fall off, or he hits free agents.
Yeah. Well, the one of those is coming first, and it's not the legs thing, not at his age. But I did see the White Sox. I saw someone on Twitter.
5 hits this weekend. He was fine.
Yeah, somebody said he's been hitting like 300 over the last like 20 or 30 games. So I guess things, I don't know, whatever.
He's being Ahmed.
Yeah.
Bad defense, no range. He's going to be a slight above league average bat for the next 2 months, and then he'll fall off again.
He'll wind up hitting 270 with like a 680 OPS and
have a 100-ish runs created plus in the end. Probably actually this year closer to 95, and he'll have about 2 WAR of total value. He is what he is.
Right. Yeah, not really at this moment. I know I would still advocate for a change, but it is what it is. Miles Straw even had a good weekend. You and I have kind of complained about him recently. I don't really know that I want to say like what he did all weekend was a big turnaround for him. It was just him finding holes with the hits. That's great, but I still don't see anything new with him. And I still think this team would benefit from seeing more Will Brennan in center. And again, we've talked about it before. I just, there's no good answer in right field if you move Will Brennan to center. It's Gabby Arias. If he goes down, it's Oscar Gonzalez. David Fry. I don't know. I'm perfectly fine seeing David Fry against lefties. However, you put him in the lineup there. Let's give him a chance. And aside from that one weird play the other week when he was in there, when we wondered where Gabby Arias is, he's been perfectly fine in the outfield. So unless you want to go back to the Josh Naylor and right, maybe Josh Naylor can avoid dropping weird ground balls by playing right field. What do you think?
I mean, there's no. Listen, Josh Naylor in the outfield, we all know where that went.
Is he better or worse than David Fry?
My cat says my old co-host is saying he is better than David Fry.
There you go.
But yeah, I like I said, that's the other thing where we talked about on the Friday show, where I'm like, well, maybe it's time to go out and do some kind of lesser trade, like do something that nets you an outfield piece. I have low faith in Oscar contributing anything.
There was an article the other day about how I think it was The Athletic said it. It's Ken Rosenthal saying the Astros are interested in trading an outfielder for a major league pitcher, and he mentioned Chas McCormick, and I'm like, I don't know,
their outfielders aren't that great. Like it's the Miles Straw level of outfielders again. Like these are guys.
Why would you go back to that? Well,
yeah.
Chas McCormick does nothing for me. And if the Astros want a major league pitcher, what do they? I mean, are you giving them Civale for Chas McCormick? Like, I don't think that works for the Astros.
Because that same piece said what the Yankees like him, Chas McCormick, which would be weird to see the Astros and the Yankees make a trade.
Right, and they want major league pitching, which that's fine. I just don't see how the Guardians can afford to trade a major league pitcher right now, given whatever's going to happen with Shane Bieber. McKenzie they're still waiting on him to get a second opinion. He's getting it from Keith Meister, who is the TJ doctor, which you never know.
Didn't he already have the second opinion? I thought, is this a third opinion?
I think no, they're still waiting on kind of the feedback from the second opinion, I guess. It's just delaying in the inevitable, I really think. I think
that's what it feels like.
John. So a lot kind of rests on that. So it's like you can't trade a major league starter because look, the Astros don't want Cal Quantrill. Nobody wants Cal Quantrill.
Yeah, until he can prove that he's like the Cal Quantrill of last year.
And you can't afford to trade Civale, and I don't think you're not trading Bieber for Chas McCormick. First of all, like I know the returns for Bieber right now wouldn't be fantastic, but you're also not settling for Chas McCormick. If that's the case, you might as well just keep Bieber. So Chas McCormick doesn't get it done for me. I don't think it makes sense for the Guardians.
No. And like that's the thing. It's I sat there and did the whole rundown with Bieber. It's like at the end of the day, the Orioles are the team that kind of made sense. If you don't want to trade the American League, it's Seattle, but where this team is, it just doesn't make sense to trade him, and that's why like I said, I'll go back to my theoretical trade to Arizona, which was 99 for that comp B pick. Give me more draft picks, people. I want more picks,
especially this year.
Yeah, and Dominic Canzoni, and it's like, hey, you shave some money. I guess you shave money off the payroll, and you do a 1-for-1 in terms of the 40 man. And, because, I'll say it again, and people could be like, you already said this, but it's like, give me the guys who overproduce with limited physical tools. Maybe they're Kye Tom, it doesn't work. Maybe they're Adam Duvall. People forget Adam Duvall was that guy who always hit and never got a chance with, I believe, was the Dodgers before he came to the Reds. But him and Scott Schebler were the guys, and those will always be the guys to talk about. But we should probably take a break, come back and talk All-Stars and Braves, because, the Braves are an All-Star team.
They sure are. When you download the Ibotta app, I missed this before, just go to the App Store and the Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code MLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code MLB. And then Monday night when the Guardians come home to play the Braves, listen to all the action at SiriusXM, just type in Guardians on your SiriusXM app to tune in. Who is it? That is Gavin Williams and Bryce Elder. Bryce Elder is an all-star. Gavin Williams is had a good start against Kansas City. That should be a lot of fun. Do you want to talk about Trevor Stephan real quick before you get into the All-Stars and the Braves?
Yeah, again, it's the funny thing where this team hasn't been. The bullpen still got the second best ERA in baseball. Maybe it changes after tonight because, again, they didn't call errors thanks to the official score. But this bullpen's actually been good for the most part. So yeah, I don't know. And his numbers aren't terrible. He's still got an ERA under 3 even after tonight. He's a 2.75, just more of late.
The underlying data as far as expected ERA is 4.23, not great. He's giving up a little more hard hit balls, a little more barrels, but he's still striking guys out. He's getting guys to chase. He's still limiting hard contact for the most part. Look, Stephan had a 280 FIP in June. He was better. The last 2 days of June were not good for him. The first day of July he pitched in was not good for him. He's going through something right now. I think he's missing some spots. He's having some command issues, and he's leaving some balls down the plate. That is what it is. Do you yank a guy out of the 8th inning spot because of 3 outings?
No, in the weird, you look at his 2020 data, and everything is the elite of the elite. It's just this year it is that barrels and expected slugging that's changed, but everything else is dark red.
Right. It's all good.
And expected ERA is blue, but I guess he's walking guys a little bit more this year, but I don't think I move yet. Who are you going to go to? Enya, when they kind of elevated him, did not go well.
Right.
Henches is already part of that with 99 being out. It's essentially those 3. Sandlin, I'm not ready to move him up. I don't think there's much like we talked about the lack of backfill or the lack of outfield options. This is another situation where they kind of painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah, and you're not going to, I assume nobody's going to say they should pull Clase from the closer's role because that would be ridiculous. But
there'll be people on Twitter, I guarantee you, saying exactly that.
Yeah, I would continue to go with Stephan, and he's got to work some things out. Clearly, the last couple of days, he's been having some issues. In theory, too, here's the problem. This should have been a good game for him, too, on Sunday to get some things worked out. It was a 6-0 game. He should have been able to come in and work through it, and he really didn't. Things were not good for him, so clearly there's still more for him to work on. He didn't get one swing and miss on Sunday. So clearly he wasn't fooling anybody. He only got 5 called strikes out of the 27 he threw, 4 foul balls. So that's not great. Not a lot of strikes there. And when he did, I feel like he kind of puts them down the middle. So
yeah, the command
if you do
not sharp.
Yeah. You can mix and match based on matchups too. You can say if there's a guy up, you feel like that Sandlin or De Los Santos matches up very well with, that's fine. Or Henches in the 8th inning, that's fine. But the other thing about those two I think people forget to say is he can't be the 8th inning guy right now. Okay, he pitches the 7th inning. His struggles don't go away because of the inning he pitches in. The struggles are still there. So if they are up 4-1 in the 7th inning, and you're like, oh, let's go to Stephan instead of the 8th inning. We'll go to the 7th inning, and he gives up 2 runs and walks 2 batters in the 7th inning. It's the same thing if he does in the 8th inning. You just, it's an inning earlier, and you have a few more outs to recover. That still doesn't really change the outcome or anything like that. He still has to go through and pitch. So I'd be okay with mixing and matching in the situations if you absolutely have to, if there's a good matchup there. But overall, right now, I wouldn't move him just because of 3 outings. I think he's just got to get the outs. As Tito always says, you can't run away from the guys that in honor of Brian Shaw, right?
Yes, and like this isn't a Brian Shaw situation. This isn't a Med Rosario situation. Underlying data is good, so I think
correct. Yeah, there's not a lot of bad signs here.
And the thing is, what happens with bullpen with relievers is there's a few bad outings, and maybe they're knocking them all out now and see where it goes. On the whole, again, the bullpen is a team strength. People may not want to believe that because it seems to always blow up at the worst possible minutes, but it is a team strength. Do you want to talk all-stars next?
Yeah, I was just going to say, too, relievers are like kickers and long snappers. You don't notice they have an error until they make one. Otherwise, they go, 80 short appearances looking great, and then they have one bad eye. You're like, oh, they're in trouble. Yeah, Jose Ramirez, I didn't look. If you didn't hear my lockdown now the other day, it's a crime that he is not starting at third base. Look, Josh Young is a good player. I like Josh Young a lot. I wish the Guardians had a chance to draft him when he was eligible that one year.
Jace Jung. Josh is the brother.
No, Jace is the younger brother. Josh is the third baseman for the Texas Rangers.
Oh, man, I had a complete brain fart. You're right.
Yeah, I like Jace, too. I wanted the Guardians to draft him, but they didn't get a chance to either. But he's a good player. But Jose Ramirez, I tweeted the other day, he leads third baseman in a ton of categories. If he's not number 1, he's top 5. And I don't think Josh Young has him in any category except for like 3 home runs. So there was just no buzz about votes for him. Like, you got to that final round, however they're doing it now, where you have to get to the final round to be considered a starter. There was zero buzz, zero campaign, zero excitement about his candidacy. He's the best third baseman in the American League this year. He has been for the most part, outside of, the years where Rafael Devers is really good. He's not good this year.
One could make a case for Paredes as the top offensive
That's fine.
third baseman. But that's really the only guy. And his defense is awful. So, it's, to me, again, I agree with you. No knock on Jung, but he probably shouldn't even be in there. Which, Texas stuff that
they're having a great year, so the fans are voting.
But
that's what
Jose, Chapman, and Paredes, to me, are the top 3 third basemen.
And that's the thing. Like, I guess the Guardians having a frustrating year probably didn't help him, which is not his fault. But also, let's remember this. This is the guy that chose to be in Cleveland. He signed a long-term deal under market to stay here because he could very well be a San Diego Padre right now, and we could be
C.J. Abrams the third.
C.J. Abrams or Gabby Arias or whoever, and then going through no division title last year.
Yeah.
As fans, I think we owe it to Jose to show up and vote every year because he chose to stay here. He is your face. He is your guy. He is the one guy who didn't screw Cleveland over for bigger money. Got to get out there and vote for him every year. Someone's got to make a bigger push for this. That's an absolute travesty. It's a bigger problem to me that Jose is not starting, and maybe this speaks to the way All-Star voting is run. The NBA, I think, has it right. I'm sorry. The NBA has a third of it is fans, a third of it is media, a third of it is players. It's all. I don't know which part is weighted more, but it's cut into a pie. Everybody has a chance to vote on that. I think the NBA has it right. I'm going to talk about Jeff's favorite thing, All-Star games. I still want an All-Star draft. I don't care.
No, I agree with that. No, I agree. I think adding draft to anything makes it more interesting. Do an All-Star draft.
Always. There's no AL, NL mystique anymore because there's interleague every day.
It was interesting when I was a kid. It honestly was. I'm an old man. So it was interesting when I was a kid because that was the only time I got to see Tony Gwynn, things like that. But now it doesn't matter. So
right. All-Star draft. And then Class A leading the league in saves. That's a no doubter. And then I don't know, Josh Naylor.
It's hard at that position. That position we have talked about is absolutely loaded. And he's just not good enough for that position this year. He's close. He's very close. But I mean,
if you could make an argument, I'll say this. Was he snubbed? I mean, a little. Vlad Guerrero is not having that great of a year. So Vlad's got 2 more homers than him, and he's getting on base at a better rate. Josh has more RBI because he leads all first basemen in RBI, and he's hitting for a better average. Right now, looks
but
like
Nathan Lowe is. I would think Nathan Lowe has been better than he has over the course of
he's
this
got a
year.
couple less homers than Josh, but he's not hitting as well. His slugging percentage is 418. I'm sorry. If your slugging percentage is not 4.5 or higher, first base, you cannot be an all-star.
Josh Naylor is 12th in weighted runs created plus amongst first basemen, a point ahead of Joey Gallo. He's close to Andrew. He's closer to Andrew Vaughn than he is to Luke Raley is number one. I got to go look where he has played the most. Then Yandy, then O'Hearn. Noda should have made this team over him. One could argue that Lowe.
Noda's got a 403 slug. I'm sorry. This is first base. He's slugging 403. That's not good enough. If you are barely slugging, Ryan Noda's slugging 400, not 5. Vlad Guerrero is slugging 449. That's barely good enough. Nate Lowe is slugging 418. I'm sorry. It's first base. If Vlad Guerrero is good enough to make it this year,
if you update Lowe, he's up to 433 based on today. So he's
okay. So 433. That's
Brandon Drury is at a 500, and he's got a higher data as well. Like he's just not good. First base is hard. Now, if we switch to second base, it's a desert. It's a wasteland. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. It's just Naylor being a first baseman. I mean, first base is just incredibly ugly. Like it's just what it is because there's so many good players. Like it's really hard to make at first base.
I don't have a problem with Vlad making. I know everyone says Vlad probably made it because he got reputation votes from the players, and that's fine. But he's a good player. He's having a fine year. He's having a down year. He is having a year very similar to Josh Naylor. So you can make an argument for one of the two. And Vlad made it because he's a name, and Josh Naylor is not. It is what it is. But I'm not going to sit here and say it was a total snub because I think Vlad was just as deserving as Josh. And obviously, Yandy Diaz is having a fantastic year. So that's just, further salt in the wound. How are we feeling about, as we get out of here, how are we feeling about the Braves this week? You got Gavin Williams on Monday versus Bryce Elder. Tuesday, July 4th, Shane Bieber and Kobe Allard. And then Wednesday in the Valley.
Allard's been terrible this year. So you do got that. He has been
his
hurt.
First start. This is his first
he's been hurt. So I guess that's more the point. He was terrible last year, and he's been hurt this year. So.
And you've got Cal Quantrill on Wednesday and Mike Soroka, who has been terrible as he's coming back from a 2-year break because of injuries. He has not been good since he's come back. So I don't know. Look, the Braves
pitching matchups well for Cleveland.
It does, but here's the problem. The Braves hit more home runs in the month of June than the Guardians have hit all year. They have 3 times the amount of home runs the Guardians do all year. Matt Olson's an all-star. Sean Murphy's an all-star. 2 guys that.
But Matt Olson leads the league in home runs, I believe. I could be wrong in that. I think
Sean Murphy's an all-star candidate or MVP.
He's the best catcher in baseball right now.
Two guys that very easily.
Ronald Acuna has 21 home runs and 37 stolen bases. 20. I mean, he's well on his way to 40-40 this year. You go down the lineup. Ozzy,
Arcia is an all-star.
Austin Riley was struggling at like a 100 weighted runs created plus. He's now up to 113,
and he's rebounding.
Too. Yeah, I mean, the only player who's disappointing them right now is Michael Harris, who's been slightly below league average.
He's been hitting better recently.
Yeah, but it's like Eddie Rosario 116, Travis DeArnold. Travis DeArnold. I can never say Darno. There we go. Is a 123. Like he might be the second most productive offensive catcher in baseball this year. Again, proving why it's good to have catchers. Whenever everyone told us, like, well, you got Bo Naylor. It's like, no, having 2 is a good thing. This is a phenomenal offense.
Do you know who's in the Braves bullpen currently? Old friend Ben Heller.
Oh, good on Ben Heller. I'm happy to hear that.
Bullpen. Yeah, good for him.
He throws really hard. He's kind of more of a 1.5 pitch guy. But at least he was when he was here. But I'm glad. Like he's bounced around a bit, and
he's only 31. Jeez, he is not that old. And he's got an ERA of 2.84 this year in 6 innings.
If you do not remember, part of the
the Andrew Miller trade.
Trade.
How many home runs is Eddie Rosario going to hit this week? Because obviously Eddie Rosario used to kill Cleveland, and obviously he stunk in Cleveland when he played for them, and I'm sure he's going to come back and hit great.
Yeah, I'm betting at least 2.
I'm going to say I'm going to say Ronald Acuna is going to hit at least one homer. Matt Olson's going to hit 2.
Ronald Acuna is going to steal
homer.
10 stolen bases over the course of this 3-game series.
And it's going to all be off. It's going to all be off Trevor Stephan and the bullpen. I don't know. Gavin Williams, I'm not sure how he holds runners. Cal usually holds runners pretty well, and we'll see how many are on base. I don't know.
But
let's see. Acuna's going to hit 2. Olson's going to hit 2. Murphy's going to hit 1. Rosario's going to hit 2 at least.
I feel like I expect the Braves to call up Lucas Litke just so he can sit in the bullpen and not be used in this series as well. After we saw, hey, we want an extra lefty. He can just hang out in the bullpen because that's what teams have been doing. And that's the thing, though. The Braves team, they're so well built. And credit to, Alex Anthopoulos, who also, you go back, you talked about how the Blue Jays were not built by Shapiro. They were built by Anthopoulos.
Right.
So, some of those pieces. But, this Atlanta team has got a preponderance of local talent, guys they brought up through their system, guys they've been aggressive in making trades for, and then also just making the right rehabilitation in someone like Arcia, going out and figuring out, fixing what's wrong with him, and then having depth of pitching and letting those young guys come up. They have been aggressive in their pushing of young talent.
Colby Allard, by the way, he said he was hurt this year. He only has 4 innings, but in his 4 innings, he has 8 strikeouts and 1 walk and 3 hits. So, thanks. And he's a lefty, so that should be fun.
Yeah. But we have gone long. We will have an interesting week. We've got Royals. We've got Braves.
Braves draft.
And so we'll be discussing all of that on this following few days of Locked On Guardians. So thank you all. Remember, rate and review, download. It helps. Do your part. Be an everydayer and go Guardians, go.
Don't get swept.